Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And my name is Andre Couture. I'm also a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, um, and I write some reviews for Celluloid Consomme at Medium.com. And also, I am a co host of a podcast, Humanoids from the Deep Dive, along with Mike here, whatever side of me he's on. So, great to be here, as always.
Yeah, and we are talking some new movies. So now we are talking about Torn Hearts, and just a quick, short synopsis. This movie follows a country music duo who seeks out the private mansion of their idol and end up in a twisted series of horrors that force them to confront their limits and how far they are willing to go to pursue their dreams. Um, so I actually just got done watching this movie, and I'm really excited because we haven't really got a chance to talk about it. But I'm gonna let you give me kind of your first impressions and thoughts on the movie.
Okay. It's been a little while since I've seen it, but I did write a review for Geek Vibes Nation some period of time ago, something like a month. Um, but the the movie is a little bit at a disadvantage if you are not at least interested in country music. That's that's the caveat. It's a let's see. I'm trying to collect my thoughts here. It's a it's kind of like a cautionary tale of wanting to amass too much fame in too little time. And the original group of the movie of the same name, Torn Hearts, is the name of the band. They find out that they can get a leg up on touring with like this country superstar who is pretty much he feels like the Kenny Chesney, if you know who that is, like of that world of the movie. He's like a pop country star where like every 40-year-old mom in Texas listens to, you know. Um, so like he makes like an obscene amount of money. Like if all he does is sing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, he's gonna make like millions of dollars. So he's looking for someone to open for him on like one of his tour performances, and the girls kind of go behind their manager's back to try to get this to happen, and part of the deal comes out so that he wants to introduce them to their hero, and I'm forgetting her name because it's been a while, but
Oh
she
yeah,
lives in the area, and like they got into country music because of her and her duo as well. But she's the last surviving member because her music partner I think passed away due to a chronic illness or complicated hospitalized condition. One of those two. But it was very serious, and she's kind of just living by herself in this gigantic mansion. And they think, let's go, talk to her and tell her how important she was to our upbringing, and maybe we can record a song with her, and we'll get like a huge leg up on this spotlight that we want so much of. And it's basically just leading up to them visiting her mansion, and then they get to talk with her, and she's a little bit eccentric at first, but they don't quite know how eccentric until she starts to put forth like these conditions of like what they're like how they're going to do things in her house, what they're going to do. They're basically on her schedule, and she creates like this ramping sets of events that kind of pit the two against each other without going too far into spoiler territory. So basically, she will give them what they want, but for a price that she sets, and it gets kind of dark, and it's weird how like the tone gets realistically dark, but also maintains this kind of this quasi lifetime movie feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm always on board for that. So uh, it's honestly just a really fun time. Even if you don't like country music, I think you will find something to like here. The songs are, I think, they're all original. They're written for the movie, so no one's like doing covers of like popular country songs or anything. So you're not gonna get like triggered or whatever by any of the songs here. And it stars Katey Sagal, legendary voice actor, singer. If you
Big
don't
one.
know who that is, you might recognize her from Futurama. She's the voice of Leela. And yeah, like if you don't like anything else in this movie, do it for Katey. Katey Sagal is a revelation in this. She's
Yeah,
fantastic.
she's great. Yeah, you know what? It's really funny. I'll get a little bit more in depth, but you know what this reminded me of? And it like hit me like a ton of bricks. It kind of reminded me of a really excellent but drawn out Tales from the Crypt episode.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. It kind of has that cautionary tale element that a lot of like anthology horror usually does or tries to do, like Twilight Zone, or like The Outer Limits, stuff like that, where there's always sort of a morality sort of tale. And it had these like really macabre touches that, again, that's kind of where I put the two together of like how it felt like a like Tales from the Crypt episode. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if that's like just because I love that show, but it's almost like it's just like there's two like things that kind of blended together. Almost felt like a almost like it could have. I mean, I could easily have seen it be like being an episode. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was creepy. I thought it really did have that like tension. Um, and it really just engrosses you in this world, because I was a little bit worried because I don't really know a lot about country music.
Hmm.
Um, I I'm definitely not a huge fan, but that's fine. Like I never felt alienated because I wasn't interested in that kind of genre. So yeah, because what I think is so brilliant about this movie is um, it really can equate to anything that women professionals are trying to do, right?
Yeah.
There's so many hurdles that they have to jump over just to get where a guy could.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it was really smart to kind of weave that. Really, unfortunately, it's a very prevalent, prominent thing, especially when we see more and more about like pay gaps in the entertainment industry, whether it be music or movies or what have you. And I think that this movie kind of really talks about that a lot without actually having to hammer you over the head with it, but it's like there as
Yeah.
like meta text to the movie, right? Like you have the one I'm trying to look up her name. I think it was Lee, who is the one that is kind of the face of Torn Hearts,
Hmm.
and she is having a romance with their was it record producer
I think he's the manager.
or
Like,
manager, yeah.
yeah.
So she's using her agency to kind of get where she wants to be. Whether you agree with that or not, I think is a whole larger topic. But it's these things that they have to feel like they need to do in order to level the playing field, let's
Hmm.
say.
Yeah.
So, and then there's another great example that I wrote down where, what's her character's name? Harper Dutch,
Harper
who's,
Dutch, right?
yeah, Katie's character. She pats, I think it was Jordan on the butt, and they're like, "Oh, that's super weird and uncomfortable." But the other one's like, "No, it's fine. Men probably did that to her so many times. Like, it's just this unfortunate like normalization of those kind of behaviors."
Hmm.
And I know we were talking about a movie called Speak No Evil, where there's a lot of frustrating moments where it's like there's so many red flags, y'all should just get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I think that this movie almost sort of goes there, but it's this drive and ambition that always keeps them there. It keeps them like
Hmm.
as a willing hostage,
Yeah.
which is very fascinating. And like we could probably spend an hour talk just unpacking all of that, but that I think is such a simple but very clean and clever way to work that narrative and get around the fact that they could just leave. But we'll get more into that, I guess, spoiler territory, obviously. But like, um,
Hmm.
yeah, I'm glad that we definitely both seem like we're on the same page with this movie because I think it's fantastic. I think it's one of those I would be kind of heartbroken, no pun intended, if this
I'm
doesn't
torn.
become like a huge cult classic, if not
Yeah.
just stone cold classic.
I definitely think it should. The one thing I think it's holding it back from getting more notoriety is because it went directly to a streaming service that I don't know if anyone even really subscribes to. And even if they do, they're probably not like looking for this movie. It was like Paramount released it through Epix, and I don't know anyone who uses Epix. Like, this should be like a, I don't know what, Paramount Plus or Peacock or fuck, like even Prime. Because, like, this is a Blumhouse production, but, like, they kind of just dumped this unceremoniously onto, like, one of the absolute lesser platforms.
Yeah.
And, like, while I have my feelings about Blumhouse. I think this movie does do an extraordinary job of highlighting the issues that it does talk about, like beyond like musical fame or notoriety, but like the standards that we expect of professional women versus the standards that automatically get assigned to not even professional men, like in any field really. Like it's not even just working twice as hard; it's working three, four, five, six times as hard with almost every single obstacle possible working against you. And I think an example of that is being dumped unceremoniously on a streaming platform that no one fucking subscribes to.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why we're championing it here. And it's been a little while since it's been like released as a new movie. So
Yeah. My hope is that it gets a physical media release.
that's what I want to.
Because I really think that it's awesome and it deserves one, and it definitely deserves a broader audience. You know what I will say? Also, it feels like a strange companion piece too Mickey Reese's new movie, Country Gold.
I was gonna bring that up, but like I know you're not as much of a fan of that movie as I know I am. Uh,
I liked it, but I thought that it didn't quite work for me. Like maybe it did for you, and I think I chalk some of that up to not really being very familiar with his past movies. Like I've seen a few, so I'm not completely like devoid
mhm.
of any of his back stuff, but like yeah, it's just it was so in between for me. It didn't feel like it felt too subdued for the art house crowd, but it felt like too weird at times for the mainstream subdued crowd. So it was in this weird
Yeah,
kind of
it's
region.
his movies are kind of in the middle of most of those Venn diagrams. Um, I guess that's why I like him so much because there's just like something extra about it to
Yeah.
like to chew on. Um,
I felt like I did like Climate of the Hunter though. Um, so I
yeah.
haven't seen was Agnes, was that his last movie?
Hmm.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I believe that's streaming somewhere, maybe Hulu still. That stuff changes
Probably.
so much I don't know. I know at one point it was, but yeah, yeah, I don't know. I definitely think that this is a really cool movie. I think it's a concept that on paper it seems maybe a little too simplistic, but they really have a lot of layers and nuances to it.
Yeah.
That it works really well. Like yeah, the acting is great. I love how they name checked Sunset Boulevard because it very much is kind of like in that
Hmm.
sort of um, like waking nightmare kind of realm. There's
Yeah,
almost
definitely.
something Baby Jane esque also. I don't know if you picked up
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, definitely. Like
Like
Harper
it's
Dutch has
yeah, like yeah, like
that
it's
that
not
feeling about her.
yeah, like it's not like blatantly ripping off that, but it like it certainly feels like that is an inspiration for sure.
Hmm. I even like found myself kind of like comparing it on an emotional basis, like emotional horror to like a Saw movie. Like
Hmm.
there was some parts about it where it's like, okay, so I'm gonna lock you in the studio, and one of you has to beat the other one to a pulp, and like you cannot leave. I will not let any of you leave until this happens. And then she uses that as like it's almost like it's like fight politics where the one who wins that fight gets the most attention from Harper Dutch about the
Yeah.
next activity or task that they've been set
Hmm.
by her to do. So like she respects that person more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's almost a little nebulous to talk about in terms of like how much this movie does in retrospect. Because like the setup, as you said, like on paper, you think like you think you know where it's gonna go, and like you can kind of anticipate how it might end. Um, and even then, like it evokes all these different kinds of extreme cinema, but still like keeping it pretty well encapsulated like within that shell of like those Lifetime movies where it's most of those are about relationships, about um, transgressions within those relationships, but also in like a an overbearing, like invisible hand kind of way, the influence of men over women, and that's still very much at play here,
Yeah.
even because uh, the band isn't even there because they showed up on their own, like they did their own research to get there. No, it's because this super popular pop country singer man like invited them. Like that's the thing that is it's kind of the catalyst to this whole thing. And even though he may not even know the hell that they're going through later on, it's another thing where it's a two-way mirror for the men. Like they don't realize what they're doing to the women um, in their profession, but it's also because it's designed that way.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's I don't know, yeah, it's like really interesting because it's like oh my gosh, I'm trying to think the like musician that is like basically dangling this opening spot at the beginning.
Yeah, he's got like a
Um
super generic sounding name that's like, oh yeah, of course.
Caleb
When you hear,
Crawford,
yeah,
which is such a hats off to the writers, well, in this whole movie, but also that just sounds like such a spot on country
mm-hmm.
music guy's name. But anyways, yeah, like there's this kind of like I mean the catalyst to all this is he basically baits like the one girl, I believe it's Jordan,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of sleep with him to secure their spot in this opener, this headliner thing. And then after they've done the deed, he's like, "Oh, by the way, it's just dudes only," and
Yeah,
sorry. And oh my gosh, like it is the shittiest thing. And like you kind of get the feeling that he's kind of a dick at the beginning, but like yeah, it's um and what I love is, and I think that um this is why I think it's great that this is written and directed by a woman. This is directed by Bree Grant and Rachel Collar Croft wrote it, but it's framed from a female perspective, and the movie never really looks down on Jordan for doing this, right? Like she's using her agency again to level the playing field, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Like, um, it's kind of ambiguous whether or not she kind of sleeps with him to secure that spot, but you can kind of infer that.
mm-hmm.
And again, what's great is I don't think that they frame it in a way that the audience should judge her for that. It's just
Yeah.
again the
They
cards
do
are
it very
already
well.
pretty much stacked against them. So yeah,
Yeah, and I think each member of the band even has their own thinking behind it because Jordan's doing that a little bit later, but after it's been established that Lee's doing that with their manager, like they're actually in a full fledged like relationship together, and there's so many bands out there that like manager might actually be like a husband or a wife or a boyfriend or a girlfriend, someone romantically involved with one of the bandmates, um, and it's not uncommon, but I think that the the politics between Jordan and Lee are really well done in terms of how like Jordan thinks of she has her judgments about Lee's relationship with the manager. Where like I think it was said in the movie that they were together before they uh, started having him as the manager. I think
oh,
it came on later or something. But Jordan kind of taking that idea and doing something new with it, like for her to use that as leverage with Caleb Crawford, but then having that kind of blow up in her face afterwards when he said that his manager told him that it's
Hmm.
only men. So
Yeah.
um, it's it already kind of sets them against each other from the start, really, where like Lee has her idea of how the band should be run, and that's like her thinking that she should be the one controlling through her boyfriend and the manager, and I'm forgetting his name, but you know,
Yeah.
um, and Jordan kind of like getting things like trying to do her own like form of like a negotiation to get the foot in the door to do the next show, to get maybe like a recording spot, or even just like an official recognition by like a superstar to say like, hey, I think Torn Hearts is an A-OK band. You know, even if they get that, that would be so much exposure for them. And that's what they're craving the most here is exposure, even if it's that they're just opening for Caleb Crawford, or they record like a cheesy song with Harper Dutch. Um, that's really all they're craving. And I think the lengths that they go to get that craving fulfilled, a lot of people don't realize how far people will go sometimes. And this it's also a really nice commentary on that too, of just like fame, like at no, um, like no matter the cost.
Yeah. And I know you were talking about the manager. That is Joshua Leonard. His character name is Richie Raleigh Jones. He looked really familiar, and without looking it up, do you know what he's really famous for a movie?
Um,
I'll give you a hint. It was a very profitable '90s film. You can't look it up.
Bonfire of the Vanities. He played the Vanities.
Yes, you're right. He was the
All
titular
right.
Vanities.
I
No,
always
that
took
is
him as a De
Josh.
Palma guy.
That's Josh from Blair Witch Project.
Okay, wait, like the okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I never liked him.
Wow. The character or the actor for
Oh,
both.
the character.
Oh.
I'm not that mean.
You're like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck Josh.
Yeah, his character was a lot. No, it was funny because like I was I was slightly distracted watching him because he looked so familiar,
Hmm.
and then I looked it up and I was like, holy crap. But yeah, gosh, I mean, I know we kind of said this, but everybody in this movie is amazing. There isn't a weak performance. And I think a movie, especially that is so character and emotionally driven, like you kind of sink or swim with these like performances. So I think they're great. So wrapping up, what are some of your final thoughts on Torn Hearts?
Um, so I would absolutely recommend this movie to anyone and everyone. Um, Not everyone's going to like it, but I think it's better to have more eyes on this movie than those pair of eyes would like them in, like say if I showed like 10 people this movie and like 6 people liked it, that's a win for me, because 10 people who wasn't going to see this before will have seen it, and then you will get new fans out of it. And um, I think it strikes like a really nice right down the middle balance of commentary on the music industry, and like just because it's country doesn't mean that it's saying something specific about the country music industry. It can
Mm-hmm.
be applied to any genre, any subgenre, any um, really performance aspect. Like you could transmute that anywhere in like the entertainment um, zone, like the
Yeah.
entertainment industry. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. And then it has all these layers beneath that where it's talking about, women in professionalism and how you should be perceived, how you are perceived, how to deal with men who use their power against you, how to deal with men who don't know how to use their power against you, but they do so because it's hardwired into them. And there's that Lifetime movie aspect, which is kind of like it's a deal maker for a lot of people, and it has that manic energy. And I hadn't mentioned it before, but there's definitely there's a little bit of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre feeling to it, where except they're stuck in the house, they're not running around the countryside or whatever, but there's that you're just going with it. You have to go with it. Energy that Texas Chainsaw does, the emotional politics version of Saw, where also in Saw movies you got to go with it. It's a lot of the same thing in terms of that, and we haven't even really mentioned it here yet either. But the original songs in this are really good.
Yeah.
They are really good, and I think the songwriter is the screenwriter, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, the excellent craft on this. And I think all of the actors sang themselves on these. Katey Sagal is a well-known singer and vocalist, so everything that she sang was actually her. Same with Jordan and Lee. That was all them. This is this is a really good movie, and I think way more people should see it. It should be released on physical media. It needs a bigger audience. So, I mean, shame on Blumhouse for dumping this one, really. But
yeah, and my hope is that with a lot of high profile people in it, I feel like we might eventually get a good physical media release. Maybe a vinyl soundtrack would be
oh, I would love that.
amazing. I could definitely see that happening. Yeah, gosh, I would just say it's such a well paced, well thought out, creepy, like um but never gets too bleak film. It gets dark for sure, but I think that it's not needlessly nihilistic or bleak. I think it has a clear vision and point to it.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say it's a 5 out of 5 whiskey bottles for me.
Yeah.
Uh,
I guess I'm going to be a little bit of a detractor. It's probably I think I gave it a 4 out of 5, or for my written review. So for now, I'm just going to stick to that because it's been since I wrote that review that I've last seen it. And in getting ready for this, I looked up did they put it somewhere else? Can I watch it on a platform that I own? The answer is still no. So I will revisit this, and it's something that I do want to watch multiple times. Unlike the movie that we talked about previously. But I anticipate that my rating will go up. But for now, I'm gonna stick with my four bottles of whiskey. Now, what it's got to be a bourbon. So, I'm thinking more Wild Turkey 101. I'm a whiskey drinker, so it's definitely 4 375 milliliter bottles of Wild Turkey 101. The fifth one has been drunk already by me in anticipation of wanting to revisit this. So,
It's got a little floating eyeball in it, which when you see the
yeah.
movie, you'll get that. But yeah, I'm glad that we also like stayed relatively spoiler free, so you all should check it
Yeah.
out. And
Good job, us.
yeah, gosh, it's so good. It's definitely one that I'm gonna maybe try to like watch again before my screener expires. But
Hmm.
yeah, I am urging, I'm sure, of course, Jason Blum, of course, watches all of our videos. So please release this on home video. I think that would be
Yeah.
awesome. Um,
Come on, Jason. You know what you did. Fix it.
and also, fuck Josh.
Fuck Josh.
um, I really hope he sees this video. No, all joking aside, he's great. Everybody's great in this. Y'all should check it out. And as always, I'm going to do my obligatory like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you, Andre, for hanging out with me, talking about Torn Hearts. It's awesome.
Yep.
And as always, just thanks for hanging out with us.
Hmm. And if you want to, definitely check out the review that I wrote on Geek Vibes Nation, especially if you want a little bit more background. It's got a trailer in there. If you're like not sold at all, and like, how have you not been? Then read it, and then it might sway you. It might.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll link that in the description. Definitely check it out. I will link where you can check out your YouTube channel, your blog, all that great stuff. Yep.
Cool.
So be out.
Torn hearts, y'all.